Dudes, I'm having a hard time reading this book. This is the third time I'm trying. I keep messing up really badly, and I've practiced it and everything. I don't understand. But it's a really good book, so I want to share it with you. My name is May Singh. I'm from the Shaler North Hills Library. The book this evening is Daredevil, The Daring Life of Betty Skelton. It's by Megan McCarthy. While most girls played with their dolls, Betty Skelton played with her metal plane. It was the early 1930s, and airplanes were still very new and exciting. Naval airplanes buzzed over the top of Betty's house, flipping and turning. Betty sat on her back steps and imagined that she was in the pilot's seat. Betty and her family lived in Pensacola, Florida, which was near the sea. Luckily for Betty, it was also near a giant Navy base. On Sundays, Betty's mom and dad drove her to view the Navy airplanes up close. That's when the family met Ensign Kenneth Wright, and he introduced them to the joy of flight. Betty yearned to know more. She wanted to touch the sky. When she was 8, she mailed a letter to all the major airplane manufacturers. She later said that it read, "My father wants to buy an airplane. Please send me all the information." And the pamphlets poured in, and Betty studied them hard. At the age of 12, her father boosted her up, plopped her into a plane, and waved goodbye. Betty was flying by herself. It wasn't quite legal then, so I couldn't tell anybody, Betty later recalled, but it was amazing. When I first read this, I didn't think it was true, but then I read on. As Betty grew bigger, so did her dreams. And when most kids turn 16, they get a license to drive a car. But Betty got one to fly a plane. She even made the newspaper, solo on her 16th birthday. A red and white Taylor craft droned through the clouds, its shining wings reflecting the bright rays of the sun. It was Sunday morning, June 28th, and at the control was Miss Betty Jane Skelton, who was celebrating her 16th birthday with her first solo flight. "No, I wasn't nervous," she said. "I'd been waiting too long to come of age to feel afraid." Thus, the auburn-haired girl with the laughing brown eyes and a few scattered freckles on her pert little nose had her first solo. 16 is the minimum age at which flyers may fly solo. Oh, we know she did it at 12. Betty didn't want to just fly for fun, though. She wanted to make it her career. Although Betty wanted to be a commercial pilot, she couldn't. Only men could be commercial pilots in the late 1940s. "I wanted very much to fly in the Navy," Betty remembered, "but all they would do is laugh when I asked." What was Betty to do? Betty soon learned how to become a stunt pilot. She preferred to call what she did acrobatic flying because there was an art to it. She soon became famous for the inverted ribbon cut. Betty would swoop toward the ground while upside down and cut a ribbon with her propeller. Amazing. So cutting a literal ribbon with the propeller. Betty never flew alone. Her dog, Little Tinker, was always by her side. And Betty also flew barefoot. She liked for her feet to feel free. At the age of 22, Betty fell in love with a very special plane, the smallest in existence. The first owner didn't want to sell it to her because, as Betty put it, she was a woman. But Betty's charm won him over. "It's just the right ship for a half pint like me," Betty said. "I don't weigh 100 pounds even when I'm soaking wet," she added. "I didn't just sit in that little airplane, I wore it. If I sneezed, it sneezed with me." She named the plane Little Stinker. In 1951, Betty set out to break an altitude record. It took some convincing to borrow the right plane for the job because, again, she was a woman. But the plane's owner relented and Betty set off. Betty and the plane reached a record height of 29,050 feet, which is higher than the top of Mount Everest. The outside temperature was 53 degrees below zero. "My feet darn near froze to death," Betty said. Betty retired from flying in the early 1950s. It was getting to be old stuff, Betty said, but she didn't relax for long. Betty got into her first race car in 1954, and off she drove into a new career. During Betty's racing days, she borrowed her friend's Cyclops jet-powered car and raced on Utah's Bonneville Salt Flats. The land was a crust of white salt that blew into Betty's face as she raced. This didn't stop Betty. The car got airborne with me toward the end of the run, Betty remembered fondly. She broke the women's record with a speed of 315.74 miles per hour. 314.74 miles per hour? Dude. Betty had broken records in the air and on the ground. And then she moved on to water and became the first female boat jumper. The surprise is that she couldn't swim. Betty was always up for a good challenge. She conquered the sky, the land, the water. What would be next? Look, she even named that boat Little Stinker too. Then she got the call. Because Betty had broken so many records and was good at so many things, she was invited to be the first woman to train with male astronauts. And they were going to space. The group was called Mercury 7. Previously, only animals had gone into outer space. No man or woman had yet done so. This was Betty's chance. Golly, that would be the most fantastic thing in the world. Of course she would go. Could Betty be one? Could she fly with the Mercury 7? Look magazine put Betty on the front cover. America was waiting. Should a girl be first in space? Betty did all sorts of training. She took the tilt table test to check her blood pressure. She spun in the Arnie chair until it would make most people throw up. Even though Betty didn't know how to swim, she trained underwater to simulate weightlessness. This was me during one of the water tests, which I was pleased didn't last very long, she said. Betty was readying herself to rocket into space. The other astronauts welcomed her. They nicknamed her 7½. When it was time for the Mercury 7 to suit up, they put on the silver suits and their giant glass helmets, and Betty was left behind. She wasn't one of the Mercury 7. NASA wasn't ready to send a woman into space. Not just yet. But that didn't matter to Betty. She had proven that women could do it as well as men. Women can fly airplanes. They can drive cars really fast. They can go into space. And they did. In 1963, Russian Valentina Tereshkova became the first woman and civilian in space. In 1983, Sally Ride was the first American woman in space. Thanks to Betty Skelton, their trips were possible. Betty owned and drove a shiny red Corvette until the day she died. "I'd just like to go fast," Betty said, and she did. And I really like that story, not just because Betty Skelton was a remarkable person and paved the way for a lot of women to do things that women and girls weren't thought they were able to do before, but I also liked it because she wasn't able to achieve everything she really wanted. She didn't get to go on the Mercury 7. And you know what? That was totally okay too. Because there's going to be things in our life, no matter how much we want them or how much we dream about them, they're just not going to happen. You know, there's circumstances beyond our control that make some things not possible. But it doesn't take away from the things that are possible, and it doesn't stop other things from being possible. And it doesn't stop people from being super valued and important, because you are, I am, we all are. We're essential and important just because of who we are, that we live and breathe and help one another. Miss Singh gets emotional. Kiss your beautiful brains. Kiss your loving hearts, please. When you look in that mirror, say, "Hey, good looking," because you're all good looking. And thank you for being you and allowing me to work at your library. See you tomorrow for Dad's party. and Magic 8 Ball.